It's about having the experience and already demonstrating the work technically to get this job done for Ward 7. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Given that the mayor and council chair live in Ward 7, how would you account for the long-delayed development at sites like Capitol View, Minnesota Benning, or new communities? You have 1 minute. Start with Ms. Douglas.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
Given that the mayor and council chair live in Ward 7, how would you account for the long-delayed development at sites like Capitol View, Minnesota Benning, or new communities?
Well, somebody's not being accountable. That's what it is. So you got city council not doing their job and making and residents out here seeking for more help and services. And so the city council come together to make sure that the budget is accurate and the money's in the budget to make sure we're serving our citizens. We will be able to do what is needed for our residents of the District of Columbia, Ward 7. And this is what's happening. A lot of money is not being allocated into projects that we need to develop. So we need to be accountable over the $200 million that they just found. So they had their money in place. People wouldn't be in the situation that they are. And that's what I see what's happening. It's not being accountable what they should be doing and serving our residents.
Johnson?
I believe it just speaks to the fact that oftentimes Ward 7 is forgotten, that people just want to be in office, but they really don't care about the residents that are there. One of the things that happens is I know that some of the housing projects got funded back in 2007, and there's just a lag because people want to pocket the money for themselves oftentimes. Also, there are projects that are currently able to almost in completion, but they need to be inspected so that people can actually begin to move in. Unfortunately, because our unemployment rate is at 20% and our average median income is at $33,000, people are not wanting to come into our area because they don't believe that we can sustain the businesses and the housing. But the reality is we can. As long as we're working towards educating our people, getting them working, we're able to have the tax base and the dollars to be able to bring those projects to pass.
Truth of the matter is you've got to have a council leader that knows how to go and fight and generate the necessary business environment and climate to do that. The incumbent does not know how to do that. Out of my corporate experience, I know how to do that. It is absolutely appalling that we've not gotten our fair share in Ward 7. With 4 council members east of the river, 3 used to be the head of the economic development, etc., mayor, council chair, we ought to have cranes going up all over the city. You cannot tell me that if we can revitalize Columbia Heights, we can't do that here. You can't tell me if we can, 8th Street, where I grew up, has valet parking in the evening times now. You can't tell me that we can't do that. You got to know how to get that done, and Bill Bennett does.
Ms. Brown?
Well, I know we have some Bible scholars in the room, so this should be familiar. Without a vision, the people perish. And I think the fact that when I left H.D. Wilson in '83, the corridor that you mentioned, anchored by the shrimp boat, looks almost exactly the same, if not worse. I think that anytime we're introducing affordable housing as an anchor for a downtown district in Ward 7, the vision is off. So I spoke very publicly at an economic development roundtable very recently and mentioned the difference between a short-term economic stimulus and a long-term economic multi-year multiplier. We stopped looking at the long-term and we're trying to get these quick fixes that are based around bricks and mortar, and we need the kind of direction and expertise that can get us to the next level in the prominence and prosperity that we deserve in Ward 7.
Chavis?
Well, it is certainly not an easy task to get these stalled projects off the ground. I mean, you mentioned Capital Gateway, new communities. I forgot the other one you mentioned. Which one?
Minnesota Benning.
Minnesota Benning. That has also been in the works for a long time. People are starved for this development. And it's going to take a concerted effort. It's going to take a leader who's not afraid to be active and to fight to get the money appropriated to these projects and make sure that it stays there. We need to make sure that we get this capital funding. And although there is unfortunately a stigma on communities east of the river, as Ms. Johnson alluded to, we suffer from a reputation that we may not be able to afford certain qualities of stores and retail, and it's simply not true. But we do need to ensure that any type of development that occurs happens in concert with the wishes of the community. We can't ram it down the throats of people who have been in Ward 7 for years and years. I want to make sure that we do set aside affordable housing units in developments that occur in our prime commercial areas.
All right, one more question. Now that Reservation 13 is part of Ward 7, do you have a vision for how this should be developed? 1 minute. Let's see, I think we begin with Ms. Johnson.
One of the things I would like to see is a mixed-use development. We need housing that is tiered in terms of mid and low and high income. We also need businesses and to support that so that it'll be a well-rounded community.
Let me say that one of the problems that many people have said is that we traded off my alma mater, Eastern, and got a jail in Reservation 13 and gave away a lot of power in that regard. The problem with that is that that was done without any involvement of the community, and that is what has infuriated many of the wonderful people of Ward 7, is that there's been no engagement to help shape the vision. So sure, we could talk about what we could do there, but what we need to do is understand that it's going to be the togetherness, that the council person must bring everybody together, and let's help shape that and let them all sit around a table and let's do that. Then everybody's got buy-in. I know how to do that, and that's what I'm going to do when I'm the city council representative for Ward 7.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, while I absolutely agree that community engagement and building vision is part of the community process and involvement, and I take on as the Ward 7 council member the lead position in pulling the community together. However, I mentioned earlier, without a vision, the people perish. Record will show us that that's intended to be a part of the Anacostia Riverwalk, and that's been in and out of the books for at least maybe close to 2 decades. And I think this exemplifies the kind of disrespect. You're talking about riverfront property. There are wards all over the city that would clamor to have riverfront property, and I understand the value of it, and I understand to have the value of having my constituents as part of what we build and shape together so that we can sustain ourselves for years to come.
Mr. Chavis?
Well, I'm happy that Reservation 13 is a part of Ward 7. It's got a lot of potential, and we need to make sure that we do what's right to maximize that potential. One thing I'd like to see on that site is an inpatient hospital, because they recently released a report about United Health Center rather, and they're losing money, and they're threatening to scale back their operations. People in Ward 7 and Ward 8 are starved for quality medical facilities. We need to make sure that we utilize that space in a way that not only brings economic benefit, which it will do because it is riverfront property and it's so vast that we can utilize it in ways to tap into that. But I'd like to see a world-class health facility there as well to serve the people of Ward 7.
Ms. Douglas?
Well, as ANC Commissioner, I was a part of it, and also the residents also was a part. But they didn't agree on certain things that were there for that area. And I think more, as we already spoken on, that more community engagement is important. So it has a lot of wildlife there that's so important. And this has really been a 20-year plan. And like the capital budget had already been set forth. We need to be more involved. And I think, as I said earlier, that the city council needs to come together in unity to make sure that whatever they put there, it's not what the outsider wants someone else to come in to make decisions. It should be the decisions of the residents of Ward 7 and in that area, and the ANC commissioners, and also the civil association groups, and all to come together and make sure they get what they ask for, and make sure that it's sealed and everything is make sure that that seal is guaranteed, so they won't make no changes later on in the year forthcoming, so they can just do what they want, because it's really developments that they want. Because you can look at the waterfront, it's in Southwest. They've already done that. Congress already gave them billions of dollars for that waterfront, and this is what they're looking for there. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a little extra time here due to the absence of the council member. So let me ask you my favorite question, which is, what didn't we ask you that we should have? And we'll start with you, Reverend.
We've got 20% unemployment in Ward 7. We've got 40% unemployment between kids 18 to 25. It's no secret that that'll increase crime. We've got a poverty rate in Ward 7 of 36%. We have failing schools. Thank God for a couple of good ones, but the reports released last week speak to the fact that we've got serious problems. And I do not see us operating in a crisis mode, and I don't see the incumbent able to address those matters. And so the question is, we need new leadership in order to address these issues in a very, very, very thorough way and an engaging way so that we can move Ward 7 towards a greater day. I know how to do that, and I will do that when I'm elected the city council representative for this great ward that has such a respectable past and a responsible future.
Mr. Brown?
I would like to have addressed ethics. I think it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and I think that as a ward, we should be the first ones to step up and model the behavior. I think one of the challenges we're facing, particularly in Ward 7, is that behavior may not necessarily have been modeled well to exemplify the kind of standards that we deserve